It's time. It's time to open your eyes. It's time to open your mind. It's time to grow up and face reality. It's time to lock and load because it's MeatTrapper time. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 244 of MeatTrapper Radio. We have got a busy schedule tonight, but there's a couple of announcements that I want to make. Now, many of you that are listening have purchased a copy of Walk with the Wild Man, A Poacher's Tale, and it's a great book. It really is. Well, we have Volume 2 on the way. The journey continues, and this book is packed full of new stories and adventures from Wild Man. So if you have Walk with the Wild Man Volume 1 and you want more of the same, then you don't want to miss out on the Volume 2, Walk with the Wild Man, The Journey Continues. My shipment ships in the morning, and I should have it here in just a few days, so you can go to MeatTrapper.com and check out the status. And as soon as the shipment has arrived, I'll make it live on the website, available for purchase. And I am really stoked about that. Wild Man sent me a copy, an advance copy, so I've got a copy of it already, and I've been reading it. And it's great stuff, man. There's a lot of good stuff in there. And I just, I never cease to be entertained and educated with every story. And I love the layout of the book. The chapters are short. They're 3, 4, 5, 6 pages, and each one is just a story. And like I say, each story entertains you, and there's also little golden nuggets of information, little tips buried in each story. Really, really good stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. And I have another announcement. If you've followed my YouTube channel, you know that I've got almost 400 videos, trapping videos up, snaring videos, and all of that. And here lately, I haven't been making any new trapping videos, and it's just because I felt like I had done what I wanted to do with trapping education and stories. I mean, there's only so many videos you can shoot of going out and checking beaver traps and catching beavers. After that, it gets a bit redundant. So I've done a lot of educational videos and then, some trip videos and entertaining videos. But I've just sort of, I guess you could say, burned out on that. But recently I purchased a thermal sight, rifle sight. I purchased a Hogster 35. And I've got to tell you, my friends, this sight is incredible. It has opened a whole new world for me. Now, if you can get these things, because, hey, let's be honest, with the political climate in this country and the way things are going, they're gonna push the assault gun ban through. They're gonna push gun control through, and after they get the big ticket items ticked off, then they're gonna start going down the line. You're going to have all kind of stuff outlawed. You're going to have body armor outlawed. You're going to have night vision outlawed. You're going to have thermal optics outlawed. You name it. It's going to be outlawed or restricted or regulated or what have you. And so that's why I went ahead and bought a thermal sight, is I wanted to make sure that I had what I needed, and suppressors as well. They're getting their people into the ATF, and you're going to find stuff thrown in the garbage, and been there, done that, got the T-shirt. But anyway, this Hogster 35, man, it's unbelievable. The clarity and the quality of the thermal images, it's outstanding. It's a game changer, and it. You can use it for hunting. You can use it for self-defense. You can use it as a handheld monocular. It has 4 profiles. That means you can mount it on rifle number 1. sight it in and save that information, then put it on another rifle under Profile 2, sight it in and save that information. And you can just go from rifle to rifle, pull up the right profile in the menu inside the scope, and you're zeroed back in. You're good to go, you know. So it's a great thing. Now, they're expensive, and there's a waiting list. Normally, it's up to about 2 months now. 8 weeks or so is the going, from what I hear, the going waiting list. I had a good friend that knew a guy, you know, that sort of thing, who was able to hook me up in very short order. And so I'm grateful for that. Cherokee, you know who you are, buddy. And I certainly appreciate it. It's a game changer. And if you're going to use it, you know, in self-defense, it just turns, if the other person doesn't have night vision or thermal, it is a completely unfair fight. Just completely unfair. But that's the best kind of fight, you know. Nobody, you don't want a fair fight, trust me. But speaking of the political climate in this country, I don't know if you've been paying attention to this or not, but the FBI, the federal government, has launched an all-out blitz against any and all organizations that have opposed this election, this fraudulent election. Specifically, the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. Now, what's been going on is that, you know, we had the January the 6th riot at the Capitol, where you had some people that left the Trump rally and went down to the Capitol and got rowdy and pushed through some of the barricades and forced their way into the Capitol. They went in Nancy Pelosi's office and put their feet up on her desk and left her a quarter and a dirty note. You had the guy with the buffalo horn hat, you know, that got up there and was hollering in Congress and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And then you had other people that were simply walking around looking, that had walked in the doors of the Capitol building and were looking around. And, of course, there was Ashley Babbitt, who was shot point blank without warning and killed by a still unnamed Capitol Police officer. Funny how they still won't release his name. But this has been called an armed insurrection, even though they did not find one single firearm that was brought into the Capitol. You know, it's amazing to have an armed insurrection without any arms. It's pitiful. But what the FBI did is they took every single piece of video that they could find that had been posted on the news, on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, everything, all the news organizations, any piece of video that they could find. And they used a variety of algorithms, facial recognition software, and all of that kind of stuff to find and identify each and every one of these people. And they are now doing a nationwide campaign of arrests on these people. And I could go down my list here. I made a list of the people, and if you're part of the Patreon group, and especially our Telegram group, I've been keeping things updated there. There have been a number of contributions that we have made to their legal defense fund of these people. But basically, these are guys that are members of Oath Keepers. They're working class guys, former military, former law enforcement that took their oath seriously. They joined the Oath Keepers. They went to Washington, D.C. They were there at the Capitol, and their fatal mistake was entering the Capitol. Now, that charge that entails is trespassing. It's a trespassing charge. And so these people are being arrested for trespassing. Now, when they get arrested, the FBI shows up at their house at dawn with armored personnel carriers, SWAT teams, and everything else, storms their house, puts their family outside for 6 or 8 hours, makes them sit on the curb in the neighborhood so that everybody drives by and sees all these tanks and crap outside their house, and then everybody's afraid that they're domestic terrorists. And then when they take these people to jail, they're not getting bond. Okay, they're being held without bond on a trespassing charge. Now, in other cases, you've got people that commit murder that get out on bail. But if you committed trespassing in the Capitol, you are not getting bail. And then what they're doing is they go back and they dump all of the cell phone records and all of the email records and everything. And they have people that were in the Oath Keepers that were communicating with each other before and after the Capitol March. Now, none of these messages have anything incriminating in them. They don't say, hey, let's get a bunch of guns and go to the Capitol. Hey, let's get a bunch of dynamite and make a bunch of bombs. Nothing like that. It's just, hey, we need security for the speakers. Can you come? Yes, I'll be there. Well, the FBI is now twisting all of this into a conspiracy charge. A conspiracy to prevent Congress from certifying the election. And as a result, they're destroying these people's lives. They're taking the primary breadwinner of the household. They're putting him in jail for a year, 18 months before he can even have a trial. So the income source for the family is gone. So the wife and the kids have no money. Then the guy has to hire a lawyer. And if you have to hire a lawyer, let me just tell you, if you're facing a felony and you need to hire a lawyer and you've got to pay for it yourself, you're looking at a minimum of $100,000 to get started. Okay, if you've got $100,000 in cash laying around that the FBI didn't seize from your house when they arrested you and raided you, then you can hire a lawyer. Otherwise, you need to start a legal defense fund. And I could sit here and go down the list and name after name after name of these people that they've arrested like this. And what they're doing is they are targeting the Proud Boys and they're targeting the Oath Keeper organization. And they're arresting anybody who was there. They're decapitating these organizations. Now, at the same time that this is going on, there was an interesting little news item. I don't know if you remember the drag queen story hour craze, but drag queen story hour came about when transvestites decided that it was unfair that they couldn't go into elementary schools and to public libraries and have story hour and read stories to little elementary school kids dressed up in outlandish, garish drag queen costumes. That's drag queen story time. And of course, all of the courts stood up and said, oh yes, you can absolutely do this. You can go into the schools, you can go into the public libraries, and you can dress up like drag queens, and you can read drag queen stories to kids and all of that. Well, the guy who was the president of this organization, I believe he's from Milwaukee, was in Milwaukee. Well, the guy that was the president of Drag Queen Storytime, he was also a judge. He's a judge. He's a child services judge, a child court judge. In other words, if you have to go to court and there's a child involved in a custody dispute or something like that, the judge that you'd go before was a member and president of Drag Queen Storytime, if that tells you anything about the guy. Well, he just got arrested on 6 counts of child pornography. He was uploading pictures and videos, and he was doing it from his judge's chambers while he was on the job as a child services judge. So they arrested him. And when he got to jail, they booked him. And then they released him on a signature bond on his own recognizance. He walked out of jail the same day that he was arrested. And your oath keepers who are charged with trespassing are sitting in a federal detention center without bond for God knows how long. I've told you 1,000 times the enemy doesn't live in Moscow. The enemy is here. You know, and everybody says, "Oh, MeatTrapper, you're so negative." No, I'm just honest. And you can be a Pollyanna and you can whistle by the graveyard and you can look the other way while your country disintegrates around your ears. But I'm not. I'm going to stand up and call it like I see it. And I'm going to tell it like I see it. Because there's a lot of stories that aren't being told. Now, those of you who know me and know where I live, you know I live very close to Fort Campbell, home of the 101st Airborne. And I've told you repeatedly in the past that the United States military is not your friend. You know, we had all of the Q-tard hopium of the military was going to, you know, arrest Nancy Pelosi and put them in Guantanamo Bay, and, you know, Trump was playing 4D chess, and I tried to tell you that was all a bunch of crap. But, you know, I go to the gym every night to blow off steam and get a workout and everything. And then once I'm done with my workout, one of the things that I do is I hit the sauna for a few minutes. I like especially in cold weather, I like a good sweat session in the sauna, you know. And our sauna at the gym that I attend is segregated. It's the men have a sauna in the men's locker room, and the women have a sauna in the women's locker room. And that's actually a good thing because you can have some semi-honest conversations since it's just men only. And if you have all white men in the sauna or all black men, then you have really honest conversations. And so there are a lot of soldiers who also attend this gym and work out. You know, they're in there pumping iron and staying fit and all that kind of stuff. And I was sitting in the sauna the other night, and there were a couple of guys from Fort Campbell in there, and my God, the stuff they were telling me, it was worse than I had imagined. I had a guy who was he's a smaller guy, but he was ripped. You could tell this guy was he was a no BS, you know, a door kicker type of guy. He was a sergeant, first sergeant, and he told me, he said he got some new recruits in his unit, some new guys, newbies came in. He told me flat to my face, quote, "These were the worst soldiers I have ever seen." He said the current crop of recruits are the worst that he's ever seen, and he's been in 9 years. He said retention is in the toilet. People are bailing left and right. And he said the recruiters, they can't scrape up quality people because more and more our people are not quality people, our citizens. And he went on and on. He gave me some very specific information. It was interesting. He said one of the first things they did, they were doing these field exercises. You know, they were doing they're doing problems, solving problems, and doing training exercises, and all that sort of thing. And he said when these guys were fresh out of boot camp or basic training or what have you, and he said they were absolutely shocked to have to do a 4-kilometer movement at night in the rain. So he took them out to solve a field problem, and they had to move 4 kilometers, which is about 2 miles, right? About 2 miles through the woods at night in a pouring rain. Now, this guy, the sergeant, told me, he said, I didn't take my snivel gear with me. In other words, I was out there in my uniform soaked to the bone. He said, I wanted to do it to show these guys that you don't have to be insulated from the environment. You can go out and do this. And he said they were just they were shocked. And he was talking about the quality of the training that's available to him. He said in the last 13 months he had been through a shooting house one time, and other than that, all they do is practice clearing trenches like it's World War I, you know, stuff like that. And all the other guys were chiming in, and I mean, it was just once that topic was opened, it was like pulling the scab off a wound. It just gushed forth. They were talking about how you can't holler at them, you can't be too mean to them, otherwise they'll file a hurt feelings report. Is what the guy called it. And he said, one of the other guys, one of the older guys chimed in and said, if I were you, I wouldn't bitch too much about Fort Campbell. He said, just think about it. You could be at Fort Hood, Fort Riley, or Fort Polk, and those are all a hell of a lot worse places to be than here. And I've talked in the past about the murder crisis at Fort Hood, where these young Army kids, they get out of basic training and they've got a guaranteed income. So the car dealers around there sell them, Dodge Chargers and all that kind of stuff, and they can't carry a weapon. The Army will not let you carry a weapon onto base. So the gangbangers and stuff all around these bases know these young kids have nice cars and they know they're unarmed, and they just they rob them, they steal their cars. Sometimes they just throw them in the trunk, take them out in the country, shoot them, leave them, and you never hear about any of this kind of stuff. But it's a big deal. And they went on and on and on about the training standards and how they had increased basic training to 22 weeks, but they were spreading the same amount of training. They used to doing 14 weeks over 22 weeks, and they have so many days off. He said these guys aren't fit. He said by the time they get out of basic training now, they're really on a first name basis with their drill instructors. And this guy told me, he said, I had one of these noobs show up at my unit. He walked up to me, and he said the first thing I noticed is the kid didn't salute me, and he walked up and he said, "Hey, First Sergeant, what's up?" And he said he really wanted to strangle the guy. He said he's not one of these people that makes people stand at attention and all that kind of stuff. He said, but the first day in my unit, you just don't walk up and say, "Hey, man, what's up?" So it's pretty interesting. Oh, and the other thing I thought was interesting was the COVID vaccinations. Because you see, the Army, now when you join the Army, you belong to them, and they can order you to take a shot. In other words, the Army could come out and say, line up over there, you're taking the jab, you're going to get the jab. But see, the Army has learned how to play politics, because it's all politics these days. Everything in government is politics. And so what the Army does is they said, we're not going to force anybody to take the vaccination. We're not going to force you to do it. We would like for everyone to be educated and responsible, and we would like you to opt in. So that's the term they're using in the military now, is opt in. In other words, you voluntarily go over there and get the shot. You voluntarily opt in. You step up to the plate. You do the right thing. And of course, what's going on behind the scenes is there's an unbelievable amount of pressure from the commanding generals all the way down to the command sergeant major's level of, you are going to opt in, aren't you? And if you don't opt in, then a note is made of you. And of course, everybody knows how this peer pressure and this unofficial stuff works. When your commanding officer stands you up and says, your men aren't opting in at the specified and desired percentage rate, what are you doing to educate your men and enforce upon them the importance of being responsible? Then you've got to go bitch at your men about, you need to opt in and go take the shot, even though you yourself don't want to take the shot. And it's all just garbage, But basically, they said, it's an unbelievable political pressure game that is being played over the COVID vaccination. And what was interesting is one of the guys in the sauna with me, he was an officer. He actually was exposed to COVID and tested positive. He came down with it. And, of course, he was quarantined. They have an isolation ward that they put you in and all this kind of stuff. He said, the only thing that I had was, he said, I lost my taste, my sensation of taste for a while. He said, I didn't really feel bad or anything. And of course, they put him in the isolation ward and, quarantined him, and they did all kinds of contact tracing. He had to tell everybody that he had been around, and all of this kind of stuff. And they had to go test all of those guys. And, it's all these busybodies that are doing all this busy work and everything. But he said in the entire isolation ward while he was there, he said most guys had no symptoms. They didn't even know they had it. Some of them had symptoms like him where they lost their sense of taste or whatever. And he said some of them had a bad flu. You had guys that were like, man, this sucks, man. I feel like crap. Like you have the flu. And he said there was one guy that required hospitalization out of all of them. He said there was one guy. And he said the interesting thing is when they went to investigate his apartment and everything and do all of that, what they found was the guy was a huge smoker. He is smoking, vaping, and that he had a garbage diet. He wasn't in shape and everything. And so the one guy that got it the worst was the one that was in the worst health. And it was one guy, So I thought that was interesting. So, that's the world we live in, man. That's the current state of affairs. So now, and it's not going to get better. It's not going to get better. So you need to take care of yourself. You need to maintain your health. You need to eat right. You need to lose weight. You need to get outside, stay active. And you need to remember that if it comes out of the pie hole of a government official, it's a lie. It's just like that Dr. Fauci. What a ridiculous guy. Now even if you get the vaccine, you have to wear a mask, and it's better if you wear 2 masks. And I'm not making that up. They have Fauci on video when this whole COVID stuff first broke out, telling people not to put a mask on because it's not effective and it can be counterproductive to your own health. Now you have to take their shot and wear 2 masks. Same dude. A year later. It's complete and total bullshit from top to bottom. They're making it up as they go along, and it's designed to do one thing, and that is control you. Oh, and by the way, here's $1,400 stimmy money. And I'll tell you, the money dropped just the other night, and the restaurants here were packed. Liquor store packed. Putting that stimmy money to good use. Let's go out to O'Charlie's or Applebee's and have some nachos. What a bunch of dumbasses. Put your mask on. Here's some money. Go to all you can eat buffet. Oh man. Well, anyway, if you are a Patreon member, stay tuned for the second half of tonight's show. Last episode, I talked about how I do estimating and pricing for ADC jobs. I went line by line through how I estimate a job, how I price a job, how I quote it on the invoice, and everything else, step by step. Nothing held back on the last episode. And so tonight, we're gonna take that a little bit further. I had a gentleman who is doing some trapping, but he's doing it for a local government entity, like a park and recreation board or something like that. And so I'm going to talk about how to deal with those people, how to set up recurring contracts, and most importantly, how to get in and out amongst the public without arousing the spandex-wearing Karens who will make you famous if they figure out that you're hurting an animal, even though you're legally entitled to do it, and you're being hired by the government to do it. So we're going to talk all about that, and then we're going to talk about how the FCC has made me into a criminal. Yes. You see, I don't choose to be a criminal. I get made into a criminal. So anyway, we'll talk about that on the second half of tonight's show. If you're a Patreon member already, please consider coming over to the Telegram channel. It's a great bunch of guys over there on Telegram, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, sharing a lot of information, cutting up, having a lot of fun. And if you're not a Patreon member, you ought to think about becoming one. If it's this type of content is something you enjoy and appreciate, you need to support it and become part of the tribe. You can go to patreon.com/MeatTrapper and get all signed up. So thanks for listening, and if you're a member, hang on.